Hi, this is Sue Willoughby from Windermere Mount Baker in Seattle. And I'm here in Columbia City with Jenna Beem.
Hello.
From Health Discovery Acupuncture and Yoga. We're going to be talking with Jenna today about how she got started in the healing arts and her relatively new space in Columbia City. So we're just going to jump right into it. Hi Jenna, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate, taking time out of your busy healing schedule to chat with us. I'd like to ask you first, what was your journey and how did you, maybe you've been doing healing arts for many, many years, and what brought you to that?
That's a good question. So I started getting migraines when I was 17.
Okay.
And I went to college and studied physics and astronomy, and I took more classes than I needed to and did more research studies than needed to. And I enjoyed the whole process, but I had really bad migraines that knocked me out throughout that time period. And then after college, it got worse. Mm-hmm. And the doctors, really well-intentioned, they kept trying to give me every medication they could think of. And the result was, at 23, I was on 6 different medications, from anti-seizure meds, blood pressure lowering meds, antidepressants, anti-nausea, pain meds, ridiculous amount of medication.
At 23?
And I ended up bedridden for 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
Where my body just rejected all of it, and it gave me a 10 out of 10 migraine that did not stop.
So all the medication didn't help, it kind of had the adverse effect.
That's how I understand it, just because my body, shutting down is the only way to describe that. It was just like, enough. So finally, this long chain of medical practitioners was like, go to an acupuncturist as a last resort.
Of course, as a last resort.
And but prior to that, my neurologist had told me, you can try acupuncture and herbs, but I'll be honest, it doesn't work. So it had deterred me from even exploring that. And again, with my scientific mind, I wanted to do what science says. Yeah. And so by the time I went to this acupuncturist, I had no hope or faith or anything. And he drew the pain out of my body through my feet. And it was such an experience of like, whoa, like just the relief like dripping down me. And the scientist in me was like, what just happened? How did that work?
Yeah, like, wait a minute.
There's
was there some sort of voodoo
real.
or, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to understand the mechanism.
So that was one treatment?
Well, yes, the one treatment drew that headache out. It didn't magically mean I had no more migraines.
Right.
Like, for sure, my body had a long-standing pattern, and it required a lot of lifestyle things. And that has led me to the yoga and meditation, and everything that I'm doing has been facilitated primarily by my own health journey, but also just understanding how our society affects us, how our lifestyle as typical Americans, for sure I fit that category in my early 20s. And now occasionally I still get a migraine, but it's always understood, like I worked too much or I didn't listen to my body cues. And so that's now what I get to do, is help people understand their bodies, and like not just from like a intellectual level, but like a feeling level, like when are we at our limit, and what does our body need in response, and how and when to use acupuncture as a tool, and when to refer out. Like, it's a really, I think our society needs to go in that direction of a more integrative model of like, everything has its place, but all the practitioners need to understand where the other ones fit in, or we can't quite integrate it.
Interesting. So you decided to study acupuncture, and where did you study?
Well, first I started reading every book I could find, and I started going back to community college, because I already had my degree, but I wanted to learn about anatomy and biology and chemistry and the things that you need. And then I went to Bastyr for 4.5 years, and my last quarter was in China, so I got to see how all this works in hospitals in China, which was very cool.
I bet.
And then I came back and opened up a practice downtown Seattle.
Nice. And how long ago was that?
I graduated technically in the end of 2008. I opened my practice February 2009.
Okay. So you're coming up on 10 years.
Yep.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Past 10 years.
Yeah.
That would be this year.
I'm not good with math. So.
2019.
That's why I'm not in finance. Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So you open up your practice. Well, so what other sort of discovery did you have on your journey? You personally, you found acupuncture that helped you.
Right.
I know a chiropractor that had a very similar story where basically his body shut down, led him to chiropractic, and ended up studying.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I study a lot still. Literally every day. I'm learning more things, taking classes, reading books, trying to integrate the science behind it. I'm really drawn to and fascinated by how physics is, I think, the best science to really explain acupuncture.
Okay.
And there's some things that nobody can explain, but I think as a society, it's time for us to look at all of the different things as pieces of a puzzle and see how they fit together, and also acknowledge where they don't. But rather than one model has to explain everything.
Gotcha.
And so, I find that the more time goes by, the more there are smart people out there researching these things, and there's a lot of resources.
Okay.
And people like to hear about it. Like, that helps patients. We live in a culture where people want to understand things from a Western scientific perspective.
Because it's more logical, that they can
It's
sort of wrap
what
their
we're
brains
trained
around
in.
it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's a nice bridge into helping people also think about things from this whole perspective of Chinese medicine, and like finding the middle way, and like more is not always better, and how to be in balance with their body.
Interesting. I definitely agree about the integrated approach and the team, sort of Western and Eastern and whatever, because I also do horse massage.
That's right.
Yeah, horse massage, and I do a little Reiki in there, and horses are just big athletes, and they develop holding patterns because they have to compensate for carrying us around. So they definitely also really benefit by not just throwing drugs at them, because all that does is just
Right. They must love having you come.
They're very excited about it. Yes.
Aww.
Usually.
And animals are such good teachers.
They are.
Because they don't have all of the hardcore belief patterns that we have to work through.
Yeah,
we have to
exactly.
break those down as humans, but animals are just like,
they're in the moment. They're
yeah.
like, give it to me. This is great. Yeah, they're very expressive. Okay, so that was your journey into the healing arts. You opened your practice downtown, and now you're in Columbia City.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure.
When you got here?
So my practice downtown was in the medical dental building, and it was largely insurance-based practice. So I decided I needed to get out of that whole system. So and the only way that I could think to do that and retain what I love about my practice was to design a clinic where I can offer both private room acupuncture and shared room.
Oh, okay.
And the shared room is about $30 a treatment, whereas the private room is $80, and people can mix and match and do whatever they need.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about the shared room. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So the shared room, we have 6 Lazy Boy easy chairs that are very comfortable. And we turn on this little water fountain and some music. And so everybody just gets to come in and have their own experience. But the cool thing that happens is when you're in that healing mode, first of all, we're always vibrating some sort of energy. Like, this is just how we exist as life forces. So when we get into that healing mode, it's like a tuning fork, and then the other person next to you starts to vibrate as well in that healing zone. So everybody sinks a little bit deeper, like the collective healing is greater than the individual experience.
Really cool.
It is, and I love it when I've had whole families in here together getting treated, or spouses, or friends. Like, it's really cool to like connect on that healing vibe.
Do you see, like, after they've been in here and they've been in a session together, then when they leave, do you feel a different energy between them, and do they notice it? Do they pick up on it as well?
Oh yeah, well, we talk about it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Absolutely, because it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I also do a meditation class here on Sunday nights, the first Sunday of the month, and the same thing happens there, where like that coherence, where everyone vibes in that deep meditative zone. It's very heart opening. Because when you get out of your head, when we get out of our analytical minds, which is what...
Which is not easy.
Well,
one
can train you can train yourself. So when you sink in, it's like that is its own reward, and the feeling of your being in your heart versus your brain, it's beautiful. And so people just kind of leave all like lovey and happy.
I like it.
I've even heard people like outside in the parking lot like introduce each other to, that have left the treatment. Like, hey, now they're friends maybe, I don't know.
Well, it is a shared experience, and I've done, silent retreats. And it's just being in a group, you really do share each other's energy,
right? And you're sharing the best of each other's energy,
yes.
Because you're sinking in and you're relaxing, and it's nice.
It's very different than, like, let's say a work setting where you're not usually sharing the good energy of
or a shopping mall or something.
I know. Do you ever have to put that bubble around, that energy bubble around you before you go to Costco or something? I do. I'm like, I'm just here by myself.
IKEA, I have to like strategize before I go in.
Right.
Like earbuds and a coffee and like, okay.
I know they need like a little like Zen zone at IKEA. So.
But you'd never find it.
No, that's true. On the map, like, where am I? Where is the Zen zone? That would be kind of fun, though, right? I'll put it in the suggestion box next time we're there. Okay, so when you found the space in Columbia City, you had this vision of how you wanted to have the shared room. So is that how you went about your planning, or did you?
First, I had the space design, then I found the space.
Oh, okay.
So I was working for about a year, I was working with a collection of friends who are other types of practitioners, and we had this vision of creating a healing house. Oh, and it was such a beautiful thing. We met once a month, we were like talking about what we wanted, but at some point it kind of started to feel like everyone was manifesting something slightly different. So it's like having too many cooks in the kitchen. And we weren't finding anything. Okay. And we were looking in Capitol Hill, and finally I just decided, I really want to be down in the South End.
Yeah. It's a great area.
Yeah, so I just decided, I just let them all know, like, I'm going to just step out and figure out my own thing. I don't know what that's going to be, but I will then maybe they can move up north, or because I was the only one that was kind of pulling down toward the south. Anyway, the next week, so that night I went home and I drew the floor plan of my ideal clinic with 2 private rooms and an open space and some sort of lobby. And then the next week, a friend texted me, did you see the for lease sign right out in the Hasegawa building?
Once again, thank you, universe.
and I live right here.
Oh, perfect.
So I walked outside and
were you living here at the time? So, okay. Well, I was thinking that you.
No, I've lived there for more than a year.
No way. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So my apartment is across the driveway from the clinic.
Perfect.
But I didn't see the sign. She told me about the sign, and I actually called and I sent a letter of intent that day, and I was like ready to go.
That is so funny that you were here, living there, and then all of a sudden the space became available, and you didn't even know about it.
No, and the woman, there was a woman who was a pharmacist for a very long time, and she was beloved in the community. Still, people stop by looking for her, and I feel like, I'm sorry, but she retired, so she was just done. So the space was then available.
Well, this is an excellent location. You're right across the parking lot from the PCC.
Right.
Columbia City is such a vibrant neighborhood.
And the light rail makes it so accessible.
Yes.
I love the light rail.
Do you use it a lot to go into the city?
I don't go in the city that much now, but yes, I do. Once a week I go down to the homeless shelter on 3rd and Lenora, and we do acupuncture there.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, just for 2 hours.
Nice.
But that's my weekly light rail trip.
Hey.
Then come back and ready to go.
That's great. So would you like to talk a little bit about the modalities that you use? So you do acupuncture, you've got the yoga. Within acupuncture, I know you do facial acupuncture. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, first of all, in the private rooms, there's a handful of hands-on techniques.
Okay.
So I do a lot of craniosacral work, which I find complements the acupuncture really well.
I love craniosacral.
Yes, I'm sure so do your horses.
Yes, they do.
And I also have been attuned to Reiki, and I do a lot of, I actually went to psychic school for 2 years.
Oh, cool.
And I do some energy healing work.
Nice.
So it's kind of a mixture of what people need, but when they need that one-on-one space, the private room is the place for that.
Perfect.
And facial acupuncture is one of my favorite things to do these days. I've gone to training. There's 2 leading facial acupuncture experts in the country, and I did both of their training and certificate programs.
Oh, cool.
And then I created all of my own notes, because that's kind of my thing in life, is to create massive amounts of notes around whatever I learn, so I can integrate the information better. For me. And I now combine the 2 systems and kind of do my own thing as well with the facial, and to get results. So we get to not just work on the face, but we actually treat the whole body.
Okay. So what kind of results are you talking about?
Sure. So, well, there's actually several levels of it. For one, we talk about how each of the lines on a face is actually, psychologically, when someone sees that, there's an emotion associated with that line.
Okay.
So it's like if we have an expression, we repeat the expression a lot based on the emotion, and then our body creates a line, right?
Okay.
And so we want to release that emotion.
Like a laugh line, is that?
Exactly.
Like, okay.
So some lines
line
these are like purpose lines, and then so there's some lines that actually have positive connotation.
Okay.
So it's fun to also talk about like face reading as a science as well. Like, look at this, and we show people like what those lines actually mean. So and that actually helps people reframe. Like, all lines are bad, right?
Right.
It's like, no, if you look joyful and happy and like, you know. So anyway, first we can talk about that, and then muscle tone. So like over time things sag. So the facial acupuncture, we're stimulating these motor points that actually help. It's like doing sit-ups for your face.
Oh, cool.
And it's relaxing the muscles at the same time. So it's kind of like a relaxed sit-up. And so that's why we do it repeatedly, right? We can't just do one treatment and magically have a face be different. We
Right.
have to do a series of treatments in a whole like 12 treatment protocol.
Okay.
So we're lifting and toning, and then we're also releasing tension along the fascial lines and the chi flow, bringing chi to the face. It helps the healthy glow, and then we're supporting the organ system. So if someone's dehydrated chronically, we need to support that.
Gotcha.
And hormone balance is a big deal. And sleep problems, if people aren't sleeping well or their digestion is off, all of these things contribute to how we look.
Yeah.
So we're not just, it's not just skin deep for sure.
Right, right.
And after 6 weeks of 12 treatments,
So it's twice a week?
Twice a week.
Okay.
And it really, I mean, it's been very fun. Some people have had massive transformations, and their intention and what they do outside matters too.
Right.
So if they use that as a catalyst of like, okay, I'm going to drink more water, I'm going to sleep, I'm going to breathe, like meditate, be more joyful, and they can take that time in their body, mind, and spirit will shift together.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
I like that.
Me too.
Wow, that's exciting. I'm going to give that a try. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I was on your website a little bit, and I kind of saw the face map.
Yes.
Which was interesting.
I also like to dabble in graphic design. So.
Okay. What don't you do? Let's talk about that.
No, not well. That's a fun hobby that I would love to get better at.
Yeah. Well, it's good. You can do that in your spare time.
Right.
Not
Tons
that you
of
have a
that.
lot of that. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So, what else would you like to share about your business, your practice, your life, your whatever?
Well, one thing I love about this new space is my ability to create community here.
Okay.
So I also rent out the space to other people. So I have a counselor who's been using the space. I have a Reiki practitioner who's interested in talking about it, and another cancer consultant.
Okay.
And I've had several yoga teachers do classes here. And yeah, we're just trying to figure out how to have fun with the space and create community, and all in the healing realm. I have a handful of friends that do sound bowls, and we're talking about creating some cool events.
Those are great.
I have a star projector that I've put up in the room, so while you're in an acupuncture treatment, you can look at stars on the ceiling.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and a jewelry making party. I'm going to have one of those coming up in April or May.
Yeah.
So just trying to like, how much fun can we have and teach people about healing and actually help people tune into their bodies in new ways.
I like it.
And create community, because we need each other.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I find that in the Columbia City area, and I've lived in the Southend ever since I moved to Seattle almost 30 years ago, I feel like there is a real sense of community down here.
It's much easier to create here.
I think so, yeah.
And Meetup is great because people who are on Meetup actually want to go to things.
Right, that are specific,
it's really
and you
great.
can get really micro niche-y about your meetups.
I love it.
Which is very cool. Do you host meetups here?
I do. That's how I talk about the meditation. Pretty much everything that happens here, it shows up on Meetup.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I have a friend who teaches tango to people after strokes and traumatic brain injury to help them regain mobility. And she's going to be using the space. We're going to start with a 4-class series to see how it works for her everybody. It's all ADA compliant here.
Nice.
So I'm excited to have them in here and tango dancing, and
that's also great energy.
Yeah, totally. So, and she's a good friend. So I'm also excited just to see her more.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. You are definitely building an awesome community.
I hope so. Yeah.
And so how long have you been here?
I officially opened at the end of October, but it feels like I really opened in January.
Okay.
There was just a lot. I was very naive at what setup would take.
Yeah.
But it's done.
Never as easy as you think it's going to be.
It's more or less done. There's still a few things always, but.
Okay. So you got out of the insurance billing.
Yes.
And so now everything is private pay?
It is. I also have all the paperwork necessary for people to get reimbursed on their own. It's just one piece of paper. It's called a super bill. And because I'm very versed in insurance billing, it has all of the codes you need to get the money back if your insurance has that.
Okay, perfect.
So people can do what works for them. And I just can send that in an email, and then they can print it out, send it off.
Nice. Not to talk, that kind of business,
well,
but
some people,
that's important. It's important.
If you do have great insurance, you want to use it.
You can still use it. Exactly.
And I don't want to discourage anyone from coming to acupuncture.
No, of course not.
But I do want to make it more accessible so more people can reach it.
Great.
Yeah.
So any last thoughts, ideas, anything you'd like to put out to the universe? It sounds like the universe is really listening to you. So.
Well, I'm so grateful to you, and I would love to talk more about your horses and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, and it would be really fun to have you sometime when I'm working on a horse come and experience that
very
kind of
cool.
energy.
I'm in.
I've taken my Rolfer with me, and she's worked on a horse, and it was really kind of a really cool experience. So
I love it.
Yeah, I think you would totally enjoy it.
Yeah, I have a friend
who would enjoy you as well.
I have a friend who's a pet acupuncturist, and she comes over and takes care of my kittens and stuff.
Nice.
And it is so nice to have, animals are just wonderful in general. But yeah, so
all right, deal. Well,
yeah.
I'll set up a horse massage appointment, and you can come with me.
Sounds great.
All right, sounds great. Jenna, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have information down below the video where you can get in contact with Jenna, make an appointment, and come in and experience all the wonderful healing that she has to offer and be part of her community. So thanks so much, Jenna.
Thank you.
I look forward to having a little life-changing acupuncture. So
right on.
Great. Thank you.